This is a question that appeared on the Ask Carol Moon Facebook page, and it's from Midori. She says, I had been bullied since 6 until 15, and I'm still afraid of that people might be aggressive to me as soon as they find something they don't like about me. How can I get over this fear? So, that's quite a common question. Obviously, it fits into a set of questions of sort of something bad happened to me in the past, and I'm frightened of it happening again. So it's really important to understand what fear is. And there's a good acronym to help you remember: false evidence appearing real. Sounds a bit cheesy, but it's a good thing to bear in mind. So, we're mainly frightened of stuff that doesn't happen. We think something bad's going to happen and it doesn't. The way that courage works is that we do the thing that frightens us and we feel kind of brave afterwards. If we felt brave before it, then it wouldn't be an issue, obviously. It's important to understand that when you're frightened of something, there's a whole load of physiological responses going on. I mean, your body's actually doing stuff, and when you're taught biology at school, they teach you about the fight or flight response, where sort of you're in a bad situation and your body gets ready to fight or to run away. But the reality is that in modern life, doesn't happen at all. There's a third thing happens instead, which is a freeze response. It's basically the same origin. In fact, it's the same response, that your body is getting ready to fight or to run away, but you've got all these hormones dumped into your blood, the chemical cocktail, adrenaline, that kind of stuff, and we kind of, in modern life, we kind of misinterpret this and it makes us freeze up. So when you're frightened of something, and when something bad does start to happen, there's like a process starts, but it's made much worse by the kind of active continuation of it. So we often get the physical responses to fear before we've actually confronted the frightening thing. So let's say you have a phobia of spiders, and you start thinking there might be a spider in the room, you'll actually get a lot of the physical responses that you get, just as if you were really seeing the spider. And maybe that kind of almost feels like it starts by itself, but it's an active continuation. And we can interrupt that, and we should learn to do that. And one of the ways you can do it is building what's called a fear ladder. So let's say you have to face some big challenge. So let's imagine you're being bullied at work and you need to tell your boss that you're being bullied. Let's say you're being bullied by a team leader. And this is a frightening task. So plan when you're going to do it. Let's say you're going to do it in a week's time. So over the next 5, 6, 7 days, try and do some kind of challenge each day that's a little bit more challenging than the previous one. So you build up to be able to do this. So I'll talk a bit about kind of practically how you deal with bullying. But first, I'll talk about the other ways to get over this fear. So Midori says she was bullied in the past for quite a few years. And she's had this 9 years of bullying, and she's kind of frightened that she might face these kind of people again who would be aggressive to put her down, whatever the bullying would consist of. So one of the ways to stop things in our past kind of troubling us now is a bit like mental rehearsal, but looking at what happened in the past, going over it in your mind, and then maybe changing the outcome. So one thing you can do, let's imagine you had this particularly unpleasant situation with a bully in the past. You replay the situation, but make the bully tiny. So you're like a giant and the bully's tiny. Or replay the situation backwards, or replay the situation with ridiculous colours or funny music in the background. And do this repeatedly until you become kind of numb to it. And this is a very good way of dealing with kind of what's called mental baggage from the past. We all carry, or I guess, pretty much everyone carries kind of mental baggage in the past, maybe bad stuff that happened or mistakes that we made or whatever, and yet we kind of drag them along with us and let them affect our present and let them even sculpt our future. It's quite interesting. There's an interesting parallel with the nature of the bully, that when the person is unpleasant to you, bullying you, whatever, you might spend days thinking about that, particularly if you're going to see them again. It's like they've said one nasty thing to you, and yet you keep kind of this nasty feeling in your brain for days and days and days, and they probably didn't give it a second thought. Just like, maybe someone's rude to you in the street or whatever, and you're upset for the rest of the day, and that person probably doesn't even know you exist. They walked past, bumped into you or whatever, didn't apologise. You didn't even kind of register on them. So those are kind of some practical ways of dealing with the fear. Now, one really important thing to do really quite regularly is ask yourself 3 questions. Who am I spending my time with? What are they doing to me? And am I okay with that? Because a lot of our kind of quality of life depends on the quality of the people we let into our life. And there might be people that you let into your life who aren't particularly great, but they're family members or you work with them or whatever, and then you need strategies to maybe minimise the contact with them, or only be with them in a group situation, that kind of thing. So those 3 questions are really useful to you. Let's imagine, I hope this isn't the case, but let's imagine that Midori is let's say she's got a job and she's been bullied over a period of time at work. As you hopefully saw in one previous video, typically any problem in life we solve with 3 steps. Get the facts. Don't worry alone. That means tell people. Get the facts, and then make a plan. Now, the reason I said it in the wrong order just then is that in the case of bullying, it's better to get the facts first, then tell people, then make a plan of what you're going to do. And I'll explain that in a little bit. So, get the facts basically means get some evidence you're being bullied, and initially the most simple form of that is just keeping a diary of the incidents. Now, it's not great evidence because it's subjective, you're writing it, but it's a start because bullying is unpleasant. You might be very, very stressed and upset. It might mangle up your memory a bit. You might try and put things out of your memory. Sometimes you might get bullied multiple times on one day. So it's really important to keep a clear record. Just like, if you have a stalker or you're being harassed or whatever, police always say, start a diary immediately. Now I'll talk a bit about collecting evidence in a second, but the reason that you need some kind of evidence first is because if you tell people you're being bullied and you don't have any evidence, they may form an initial opinion that you're mistaken or you're blowing things out of proportion, exaggerating or whatever, and then even when you get evidence later on, they'll be less likely to believe you. So this is why I think it's best in this case that we get the facts first. That means we get the evidence. And And obviously, good forms of evidence would be audio and video recording. You could, just do this with your smartphone in a shirt pocket or whatever. Leave it on, recording this person bullying you. Now, a good way to get some evidence from the bully themselves, say it's a work situation where this person is maybe they're bullying you in a one-on-one situation, so they're careful not to do it when other people are around. So what you do is, after they've kind of bullied you or whatever, maybe the next day you're going to send them an email or a text message or whatever, and say, in a very kind of non-aggressive way, just something like, why is it yesterday that when you were looking at my work you were so rude about it? And you see what they reply in the email, and now let's say they try and justify it. Then in another time when you're with that person in a group situation, talk as if you haven't got their reply. And you say, 2 days ago I emailed you because I was upset about what you said about my work. Now, if they deny that they bullied you, you can then later show that email you received from them as evidence to those other people that are present when you confronted the bully. Again, if they say they don't deny it, but they play it down, they try and make it sound like a bit of a misunderstanding, well, you've got their reply where they were maybe justifying their attack on you. So that's one kind of way where you can start to get evidence. And so you get the facts and you start telling other people, and you want to get to a point where you've got a lot of people on your side, and particularly you've got some people on your side who are in a higher position in your company hierarchy or whatever than the bully themselves. Or let's say it was in a sports team, you want you want the coach of the sports team to be on your side or whatever. Now, when you're approaching people to tell them about the situation, don't say something like, "Oh, I'm being bullied, what should I do?" or "So-and-so's bullying me, what should I do?" Instead, you want to get the person to imagine themselves in your situation. The first thing you say is it okay if I ask you a personal question? Hopefully they say yes, because you've approached the right kind of person. You say, have you ever been bullied? And either they have or they haven't. If they say they haven't, then, did you know anyone who's been bullied, like a close friend or family member? And they probably do know someone. And if not, then you still proceed. And you say, well, the reason I ask is I'm being bullied. I was wondering what you would do in my situation. So you don't say, what should I do? Say, what would you do in my situation? This starts to place them in your situation. Hopefully they remember a time when they dealt with someone unpleasant or whatever. But this is a much more powerful way to get the conversation going than to say, I'm being bullied, what should I do? You want them to kind of feel the situation you're in. And then you start to build up a group of people who are aware of the situation and might start observing things. If people are concerned for you, they might try and spend more time with you, so that you're on these in these situations where you're with the bully alone. And ultimately, you need to get to a point where either you can confront the bully yourself, or better, some people confront the bully on your behalf. What I would say, just to kind of sum up, is that there are very few situations that are worth sacrificing your mental health for. So if it's really bad and you can't deal with it, obviously don't kill the person, that would be terrible. But absolutely, very few jobs are worth being bullied for. Personal relationships not worth being bullied for. So ultimately, if you can't get it dealt with, then get out of that situation, because the world is very big. The world's full of people. There's no need to have crummy people in your life. So remember those 3 questions: who am I with? What are they doing to me? Am I okay with that? And particularly in the context of bullying, obviously you don't want to spend time with bullies, but also the people that you're spending time with should be willing to step in and help you deal with these people. And last thing I'd say is remember the motivation of the bully, that the bully kind of tries to hurt you, tries to make you feel little, because not because of you. So you wrote in your question, I'm still afraid that people might be aggressive to me as soon as they find something they don't like about me. Well, it's not that they kind of find something about you and start attacking that. They will attack anything because they have issues, maybe quite deep issues that they're not dealing with. So it's really not about you; it's about them. And the best way to deal with it is get a group of people, get some people who are higher up in the hierarchy than the bully, and deal with that way. I hope that was helpful to Midori and anyone else. Hope that nobody is in that situation. Don't kill the bully, but do deal with it, and deal with it quickly if you can. Okay, thanks a lot. My cancer fundraising page is at matthewdons.org. It's matthedons.org. The money raised for that pays for immunotherapy, which at the moment seems to be keeping me alive, although I've got terminal cancer and only a few months to live. So if you can donate, matthewdons.org, really helpful. Cheers.